Hello everybody and welcome to the War Room. Today I'm going to be discussing the UFC 278 main event. Kamaru Usman taking on Leon Edwards for the second time, but this time of course it's for the welterweight belt. Now Kamaru Usman has looked incredible since he's won the belt. He's improving every time he steps in there. He looks incredibly sharp. He's a lot different to the fighter that Leon fought the first time around. But you also have to make the same argument for Leon. He's definitely a different fighter. Let's have a look at the tail of the tape. So Kamaru Usman is 20-1. So he won his pro debut, then he lost his next fight by rear naked choke, and now he's on a 19-fight win streak. Leon is 19-3 with one no contest, but it is worth noting that all three of his losses are by decision. He's never been stopped. And we saw him a little bit wobbled against Nate, but he's never ever lost by stoppage. So that's always a little bit of a confidence booster coming in. You know, you can find footage of Usman having his back taken and choked out. And if I'm Leon with a couple of rear naked choke submissions on my record, I'm thinking that's my backup plan. You know, if I find myself on the floor, I can't get up, I will engage in grappling. And if I hit him and hurt him and you know, he goes down, there might be an opportunity for Leon to jump on his back and you know, put Usman in a position where he doesn't really ever find himself. That's something for Leon to be keeping in his mind. So the 2-inch height advantage goes to Leon, the 2-inch reach advantage goes to Usman. Striking output, of course, is favoured by Usman at 4.66 compared to 2.62. Usman also has better striking accuracy and better striking defence. The other thing you have to consider as well when it comes to strikes landed per minute, just like we were talking about with their first fight, 126 total strikes compared to 36. Half of those strikes from Usman were on the ground. So the striking output, of course, is favoured towards wrestlers because they're able to hold people in positions where they can just strike them and beat them up. And of course, all that is counted towards total strikes. Now, takedown average, Leon is actually halfway towards where Usman is, 3 per 15 minutes. Leon's at 1.48, which is, you know, a pretty good statistic considering, you know, most people would look at him as a kickboxer. Usman's takedown accuracy, of course, is 49%. It's very, very high, and his takedown defense is 100%. And I know you're going to argue with me on that. Oh, yeah, but Covington, etc., etc. Look, I'm telling you what the statistics say. I don't always agree with the statistics, and I will get into that. But I think we need to better define what is a takedown in mixed martial arts, and that's probably not for me to do. You know, we have wrestling greats like Daniel Cormier around, and I think that we could get a real better definition of what a takedown is and how that is scored. And I'm not the person to do it. But one thing I will challenge though is the control time, because I've looked into control time, and this is a narrative in this fight, of course, because Usman is at number 1 for control time in among active welterweights with an hour 58 minutes and 12 seconds. But one thing that you also have to keep in mind when it comes to control time is that is not necessarily controlling on the floor. That's also controlling up against the fence. And I would like to make the distinction between controlling and holding. There's nothing wrong with holding somebody up against the fence. You know, it's a tactic that we've seen in, you know, GSP against BJ Penn. You know, a lot of fighters use it to stifle and wear their opponents out if they're powerful strikers. That can be a very useful tool. But for me, control time is not the same thing. And I'll give you an example as to why this has come up, because I went through the Usman Edwards first fight. So Usman is credited with having 10 minutes and 50 seconds of control time. But going through and timing it round by round, he was actually only controlling him on the ground for 5 minutes and 55. So the distinction that makes sense to me is that a downed opponent is when it becomes control time. So if a knee's down, or if, you know, 2 hands are down or whatever, that is the downed opponent, and that's when the control time begins. There's a lot of time when Usman's holding people up against the fence and kind of slowing the action down. And for me, that could be a point when Leon could just allow the fight to slip away from him, get him frustrated, you know, try and peel off and bounce off and dig his underhooks and get off the fence. But Usman can quite easily slow that fight down and take away the movement of Leon. And I think, you know, this is a narrative that keeps coming back every time we talk about this fight. Leon has to take the initiative, and it's easier said than done, believe me, because I've been there. You know, you step in there against someone who's a great wrestler like Usman or GSP, and you go, I've got to throw. I can't wait and expect him to take me down. But then you find yourself doing it, and it's a trap that you fall into quite easily, especially if you're, you know, I mean, I'm not the most powerful of strikers, and I would say that the power in this in this equation doesn't go to Leon, which means that he can't expect, oh, I just need to land one and then the fight's done. He will probably need to land an accumulation of shots in order to hurt Usman. So he has to be really cautious at how he applies those strikes. At the same time, that caution can't override his willingness to be aggressive, because he'll find himself shut down by the possibility of a takedown coming. He still needs to flow and strike and stay on his toes and keep moving. If he finds himself being shut down, I think he's going to find Usman's going to become more of a striker than anything. And because Usman's got confidence in his hands, in his striking power, and he's developing from one fight to the next, that dual threat for Edwards of, is he going to take me down or is he going to stand and trade with me, is going to give him an additional layer of analysis before he can react to anything that's happening. So, as every time Usman steps forward on that lead leg, is he level changing to get underneath and onto the legs and hips, or is he stepping on with a powerful jab cross? You have to make that assessment in a split second. And if Leon finds himself up against the fence, trapped like he most likely will do at portions of this fight, he's not going to have the option to move away. So he's then going to have to decide which direction he's going. And the development that we saw from Usman in the Covington fight, the second Covington fight, is that he was very good at trapping him up against the fence and walking him onto hooks.